Greetings, everyone. Today is day 5 of the Navarasa Series, Decoding the 9 emotions of Navratri. And today's emotion is Veer, implying valor and courage. And who else could be a better person to talk on this topic than my guest on the show today, Farah Ismail. Farah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Megha. And I'm so excited you're doing this series. The moment you started telling me about it, before you finished the sentence, I said yes, if you remember.
Yes.
Yes, I love the thought behind it and the creativity of bringing this now. Thank you.
And for the benefit of the audience, I would like to tell everybody that Farah has more than 30 years of work experience. She has changed jobs and she is now a leadership facilitator and leadership coach who believes in nurturing and growing leaders for tomorrow. So obviously and making them courageous leaders, not only leaders, but courageous leaders. So, Farha, first question to you would be that, courage has a very different meaning for everybody. For some people, it would be like coming out of the shell. For some people, it would be staying put on the path that they have chosen. So, for example, from the recent example in the edtech space, the Physics Wala founder, Mr. Alak Pandey, was offered a multi-crore offer, but he refused to divulge from his path and he continued to follow his aspiration. And now his edtech company is a multi-billion edtech company. So, and it's doing very well. So, how do you define courage and how do you instill courage in when you are talking and interacting with change makers and leaders?
Thank you for that, for sharing that example, because it made me think about, what courage, how courage, it can mean different things to different people, right? And it can show up in different ways. And when I hear that example that you shared, it reminds me of, how he really stayed with his values and with what's really important for him. And that's something that really fuels your courage. So it's so easy to say yes and say no and to walk different paths, but it takes a lot to be able to stay on your path and to trust it. So that's what I'm hearing from that example. And yeah, when you ask me about courage, I normally used to say, "Oh, I'm fearless, Farah," and I used to feel very proud of expressing my a little bit about who I am through that. And then I realized that no one is fearless, right? So I did change that to I fear less. And when I think about courage, it's such a big part of my life. And how I see it is, it's not equated with being heroic at all. So, I love the fact that the word courage comes from a Latin word, which is crore, which translates to heart. And so for me, courage is speaking one's mind by telling all one's heart. And it requires you to be open hearted, to be vulnerable, to be willing to take risks, to be willing to be imperfect, and to take all your masks out if possible and remove those armors and create a ripple effect. Because I think when you choose to be courageous in this way, you give others the permission to be vulnerable, to be open, etc. So especially with leaders today, it's so important to deal with all the uncertainties and what's happening today with the ever-changing environment and landscape. It's really important for the leader to be courageous, and it means this for me. Is I'm open. I'm willing to say I made a mistake. I'm willing to listen to you, And so for me, that is the core of courage. And it's not a walk in the park. Not everybody, and that's the reason why not everybody chooses courage every single day, because it's hard. It's like stepping outside your little boundary, your comfort zone, right? And I would say one more thing, that it's really a daily practice, a daily practice of letting go of who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we really are. So a lot of inner work, looking at who am I? What defines me? And trying not to be like anyone else, right? So that's why you remember leaders who made a huge mark because they chose to be themselves and as authentic and as vulnerable as they can. And that's a little bit about my thinking around courage, Mika.
Wow. I mean, so many things and so many. I really like that line. Courage doesn't mean being fearless. It means fear less. So I think it's
Mm,
beautiful, and also the fact that courage is not something which has to be practiced daily. It has to be choosing the things that you want to do and letting go of things that you don't want to do. So that those are very important, inputs on what courage is. How do we choose the path that we want to do, that we want to take, and how do we stay put on that path? So, Farah, how do we build that courageous attitude? How do we build this attitude of belief and purpose? Because when you have to fear less, you have to somewhere confide and trust something else more. So, and that more would possibly be your belief in yourself, belief in what you're doing. So, how do we build this attitude of belief and purpose?
I think that's where the core of everything, it's like we talk about the hardest thing in the world is diamonds and steel, and the third is just being self-aware, correct? So, and I would say that what has helped me in choosing to lean into courage, lean into vulnerability, lean into being the version that I choose to be, and it comes from spending a um, lot of time and in awareness building. It's like getting to know really what matters to me. What do I truly want? What I don't want? What values drive me, fuel me? And it's a whole process of getting to know yourself and seeing what lights you up, what thrills you, what makes you wake up in the morning. So um, a lot of times we're not able to do this alone because, yeah, we do it, but we don't see it in a light that we would like to see, because it's so important to be able to see yourself as a whole and complete. I was lucky because I had some brilliant mentors in the journey, brilliant. And the mentors may have never realized that they were shining a light and showing a mirror, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that some of the ways in which you can choose to begin building this muscle is, one, first give yourself permission. It just say yes, this is what I want. I want to choose courage over comfort. And because it's so easy to be in your comfort zone, and so be willing to do that first. Give yourself permission. So it's a decision. Okay, it's a first decision. Then it's all about action. And I also recently was doing some research because I do so much work in courage. I felt that courage is, you'll find it in the gap between your intention
Mhm.
and your action. You'll find it there. And so you might decide, I would like to be XYZ, or do this, or be the most inspirational leader, or I might have this intention, but the gap between that and the action is where courage lies. So if you notice that, that's what actually spurs you into action. So I would say, One is look around you. You'll find courage everywhere. So I get inspired by other people, and that's my biggest fuel. Secondly, probably find somebody, a mentor or a courage buddy or a courage coach or someone who can, you know, accelerate that journey for you so you fall in love with your choosing to step outside your comfort zone, right? So I think it's those are a few ways you could do that, but the power is in choosing. The power is in noticing, becoming aware of all the times that you are choosing the comfortable options.
True.
But choosing courage is over comfort. Yeah. Those are some ways. Of course, there are beautiful daily practices. I have a book. I wish I could show it to you. It's not right next to me. And it's something which I love doing. It's 365 days every day. Do one thing that scares you.
Okay. Wow.
And it's not like walking in the dark or trying something, jumping off a cliff. It's not those kind of things. It's about what you say yes to. It's what you say no to. It's what you're noticing. So for me, it's that huge sense of being present to what is inside of you, which you never knew you have it. Yeah.
Wow, there's so many takeaways from this. I mean, first of all, from starting from being aware, then from taking the right kind of choices that to make a choice for oneself. You know, we do make choices for others, but how many times do we make choices for ourselves? So I think it's such an nice, thought that we should make choices for ourselves and also seek mentorship. You know, also seek courage from the people around us, also seek help from people around us. And also, very important and very valid point that you have mentioned is do something which you are scared of doing, because and it's not like you rightly said, walking in the dark or something. It's more about soft skills. It could be about some transitioning to a new role. So trying to do something which is essentially, some people might be very scared to talk to people. So talking to some
Yeah.
people, just taking the phone and calling them up and saying, oh, hi, I want to talk on this topic. How many of us would be comfortable doing that? So I think this is a very, very valuable takeaway for all of us here, that we should be doing something which we are scared of. And once we basically, and later we will find that we'll perfect it. And there are I'm sure a lot of people would find great value, and thank you, Farha, when they try it out and come back to you. And I'm sure you will get a lot of messages saying this. And
Just one thing I want to say. Of course,
yeah.
we can't perfect everything, right? So I think that's something that I struggled with for a long time. I was like this queen of perfectionism. I loved everything and I'm very visual. So when I'm doing work for my clients, it has to have that much time, effort for it to look like this ultimate perfect product. And then I realized how much sleeplessness I had because there's nothing called perfection, because everybody will find something good, not good, they would love it. I was just putting so much value on this, and I gave myself a lot of help. So that's another thing that I shifted, which is that imperfect is okay and failing is okay. I have so many failure stories that I find that most of the time we are afraid to have the courage to do something new or to move away from something that didn't serve us, is because we are afraid to fail. And I find that failure is it's a place where we grow the most. That's where we learn, and that's where we can pick ourselves up and try something new. And there's no one in this, I think possibly anyone in this, any human being who's ever not failed. So I think it's it's a myth for us to think that failure is like this. It's a hard place to be, because if you try something new, you're bound to fail. uh, you will have grief, you will have disappointment, but that's what brave leaders do. They go there and then they pick themselves up. So that's the path that we take when we are courageous. It's being willing to um, be imperfect and to fail.
Very true. I think this is another eye opener that it's okay to fail, and it's better than not trying and not doing things. I think, and so what? You at least tried and followed and know now what is best for you. And I'm sure these experiences of small failures make us the person that the next version of ourselves. So, very
Yeah,
beautifully said. Thank you, Farah, for these power
yeah.
bombs. And
I like that. Power bombs. I'm going to borrow that.
now,
Life lesson.
thank you. Now, coming to one question related to women, because I always love to brings one women specific question. Women, do you think that boldness and femininity are both, very different emotions, or can they be integrated in a harmonious manner? Because if now is the world of uh, social media, so a lot of women have to, by choice or by profession, have to come out of their shell. Or if they want to try something new, somebody might be I meet a lot of founders, and they might be very good at making a product or service, but they find it very difficult to talk about it, to sell it, to market it. So because they are literally, they're not the outgoing kind of person. So is it something to do with the the mindset that we have? So how do we handle this, basically, femininity and boldness? Are they complementary, or are they the opposite to each other?
So, firstly, when I hear the word boldness, it reminds me of a fabulous quote that has always stayed in my mind, which is, what you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic. And if I look at the decisions I have made in my life, they've had tinges of this, because, as you said, I've changed careers, etc. I've had the courage to have three different careers, all three distinct, and go there and create that future I want to create, and loving it. And whenever there's a space where I felt like it became stale, I chose to find a new purpose, a new passion. And so when I think about boldness that you talk about as women, I think it comes from, luckily, it came for me. I was really lucky, I must say this. I have to give credit to my parents. I grew up in an environment where there were no limits. There were no limits. We are three girls who grew up thinking like Nike, right? Just do it. And there was no limitations. There was no gender. Yeah, we didn't have this thought that, as a woman, I have something different. So, and for men, it's different. So I was lucky to grow up in an environment where I could be creative, I could try, I could fail. And so boldness and courage, all that could thrive in that space, right? Because, we grew up in a really tough environment, but in that toughness, that tough time, there was this spaciousness to play, to experiment. So when I think about women today, they could have different circumstances to what I had. So I was lucky. I would say that it's it's really important. One, if you're doing it for yourself, right? If you choose to opt for something, try something different, it's about expressing yourself and being able to stand up for what's important to you. Um, so I think when you have that certainty about what you want to try, I think you have to give a go to it. And that's when, people around you will also respect you for you staying the path. We also have other challenges, which is probably some of the environment we live in. It could be even the family we live in. And so I just want to say that it may look tough, but like there's always a crack in everything. You will see the light. So um, I don't think so. For me, it's having that mindset, which you said, the mindset of not giving up, sticking by it, choosing to stay on that path. Yeah,
True. So no matter what the circumstances, like you earlier said, that courage is somewhere in between, in between the cracks of what we want to do and where we are. So we have to choose courage regularly and continue to focus on the path. And in the process, we will gather support. It's not
yeah,
like television serial where things will always be going wrong, wrong, wrong. And so it will, life is not like that.
yeah,
Thankfully.
yeah.
So
And I think that's a resilience mindset when you believe that there is something good ahead of you. So with that belief, you can always rise up. But if you're in an environment where or around people who are taking you down, or you are down, the first thing I would recommend is to come out of that hole. Look for some support, because if you stay there too long, it could really, really be a hard place to be. So I think that today, with all the layoffs, etc., it's hard. It's really hard. So find that one support. I was lucky when I was in the bottomless pit in my life at one point in my life. First of all, I couldn't see support. So it's possible that you could also blur your reality and not take help. So I was like that, which I have shifted my narrative there, because you don't need to do this thing called life alone ever. So it's about finding a community, or at least one person in your life who you can reach out to, who can be that in that seat of compassion, for you when you need it. I had that. I had that one person, and I'm so grateful for that. And today I look to create more of that and be that for others, because and that's what humanity is, in this tough period that all, most women or even others who are losing their jobs and are also to really stay rooted in who they are, and not believing that, they're not, there was something wrong with them. This is the common reality, and to find support. We have so many pillars of support around us. So don't be afraid to ask. That's my biggest thing. Just ask, and it's all around you. Yeah.
yeah, very nice. We should ask for help whenever we are struggling with something. And I would like to thank you, that you are now doing things, because you understand the pain, you understand, you've gone through the journey, and now you're trying to build it in a better way for others. So my heartfelt thanks to you for doing so. And
Thank you, Nick.
before I let you go, my one last question would be, what are some practices or rituals that you would suggest so that we never lose sight of being fearless, of being courageous, of staying put on the path?
I'd like you to do this today. Go in the mirror and just look at yourself,
Okay.
because the first thing is to fall in love with yourself, really, and to love yourself first. There's no need to compare yourself with anyone else except, who you were yesterday. That's it. And I would say that there are many little things we can do to stay in this. This this beautiful space when we can be vulnerable and speak up and express ourselves. It would come with really knowing our emotions, knowing when I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And you're doing this whole series of emotions. I would say take some time to, this is something I do. I can give you a practice before I close. This is a friend of mine who had shared this practice, and it's called, it's a very short, it's a gratitude practice that I do. And it's an acronym called GLAD, GLAD.
Okay.
So I wake up feeling extremely ready for the day when I actually have an opportunity to do this little practice. And GLAD stands for, what am I grateful for? What am I learning about myself and the situation? What have I accomplished yesterday or today, whichever day you're doing it? And of course, what have I been delighted by? So it keeps me feeling like I'm 21. Delight, awe, wonder, so you're looking with awareness. You're also looking at your accomplishments, because that's so important for you to feel confident about yourself. And so this little practice, I would say, maybe that's a little gift we can give ourselves. And there are many, but this is one thing you could do.
Very nice. Actually, I've noted it down. I've written it down that I would also do it. Love myself. So when I get up, look at the mirror, and give some hugs and love, then kisses to myself itself, and
Yeah.
also do this practice of glad. It is. I'm sure it will have a, because it's a reflection that you're telling me to do, telling all of us to do. So being grateful, seeing what we have achieved today, and that also sets the path for the next thing that we want to do, in the future. So it's a
Yeah.
very powerful technique. I am so glad that despite the fact that you are fasting and you made time to come here, and you are doing phenomenal work in the space of building people up, of you know giving them the courage to stay put, stay on path. So I look forward to many more sessions with you. For now, I'm really grateful to you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Megha. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.